Well, it's official. YouTube decided Peter Griffin was too scary for children, and so he got sent to the Shadow Realm. So this week, we'll try to not end up age-restricted to eternity, and use a character known for their arts and crafts skills. Today, I'll be finding out if you can beat Fallout 4 as Walter White. The rules for this are that I'm only allowed to use the syringer in 44, and I'm not allowed to heal any radiation I get during the run. Without further ado, let's get into it. The run begins like many with creating our character and setting the stats. For Walter White, I went with 10 in charisma for better prices when purchasing crafting materials and selling back goods, a 10 in intelligence because of nerd rage but mainly for chemist and because it fits the character, 3 in luck for bloody mess way further down the line, and 2 in perception because I had a point left over. The rest of the special stats are all at 1 due to Walter having cancer by this point in his life and already being 50 years old. But now being set free into the Commonwealth, it was time to start up the business venture of a lifetime. After gathering all the potential goods in Sanctuary and grabbing a 44 just lying out in the open, Walter began the long hike to Diamond City. Along the way he ran into some thugs holding up a diner, but Walter has seen enough to know how to fix the situation. By getting money from the thugs, and then reward money from the would-be victims. He's gonna need all the caps he can get to be able to fund his startup enterprise. Continuing along, Walter makes his way to Cambridge Police Station to watch as the Brotherhood deals with the surrounding locals. Considering at this point his gun only has 5 bullets, he doesn't see the harm in letting others use up all of their resources while he gets to keep his. Plus, it's easy experience. Finally arriving in Diamond City, he first visits the local doctor who sells the syringer, and because of all the money Walter had made up until this point, it's an easy transaction. Now, as far as the syringer ammo goes, since it's all crafted, it made more sense to make something to defend himself than start crafting chems, and luckily, Myrna and Percy in Diamond City sell pretty much everything you could ever need for this. Now with multiple ways to defend himself, Walter stops by the Colonial Tap House to enjoy a drink. Or he would if there wasn't a one-sided ass whooping being dished out. After talking with Paul, Walter got tasked with sorting out the barkeep. Turns out that the barkeep was getting a little too friendly with Paul's wife and he wanted it stopped, which makes sense. What didn't make sense was while Walter was telling Cook to skip town, Cook offered Walter a job to ambush a chem deal, making a lot of money and scoring some free chems. Intrigued, he took up the offer. Maybe this is what was needed to finally start making some serious money and start building up his reputation. The unlikely duo met up at the ambush point and Walter let Cook take the lead. The syringer did an okay job at annoying the person shot, but 30 damage was alright. However, the wait for the full amount of damage to happen was slower than just using an unmodified pipe pistol. With the deal disrupted, Walter interrogated the only survivor for literally every drop of info she had as to where the chems were coming from, but she was too valuable to be left alive. But with Cook and Walter now being the only people alive to know what transpired today, loose ends needed to be tied. Now with the chems and all the money, the run was beginning to finally take shape. After doing some light crafting, Walter went to check out the chem lab, but when he saw super mutants blowing up ghouls, he figured he was going to need some backup first. Now, I tried to get a mod for Jesse to work from the beginning to do the whole run with him, but clearly that didn't work, so I went with the next best bet, Kate. Walter kicked in the door to the combat zone and gave everyone free samples of what was to be the next hottest thing on the block. And believe it or not, this went pretty well. All that had to be done was take out a couple of random bottom feeders and now Kate was ours. So first things first, Kate adorned her Jessie cosplay, and then our heroes raced over to Good Neighbor to pick up some supplies for making money, and even ran into the thugs from the diner again. The funniest part is, Walter tried to instigate a fight with them since they wouldn't talk, and for some reason, the whole town attacked them instead of him. Nice! So, when I say Walter was procuring supplies, here's what I actually mean. To make jets, you need 2 parts fertilizer and 1 part plastic. To make a bleeding syringer shot, you need 1 part fiberglass, 1 part oil, and 2 parts steel. For anyone looking to do a run similar like this in the future, you would visit Cleo and Good Neighbor or Trash Can Carla for a shipment of 25 oil, a shipment of 25 fiberglass from Deb and Bunker Hill. Fertilizer can be made in a settlement using Brahmin and a feed trough, or purchased in bags from pretty much every vendor, or you could even buy a shipment of 25 fertilizer from Myrna in Diamond City, Same with plastic and steel. And what Myrna has, Piercy has as well. Between these 5 different shipments, you could constantly have a flow of supplies back to Sanctuary to craft chems. So with the trade route set up and the local shop owners pushing his chems, Walter went to go get the only faction who could help manufacture and distribute, the Minutemen. Busting them out of the Museum of Freedom was a cakewalk, and even the Deathclaw outside didn't put up too much of an issue. Before moving too soon, Walter decided to investigate something. Mama Murphy has the ability to see the future like some kind of fortune cookie with legs. However, she needs free samples of the high-shelf chems. But if he plans on running an empire, Walter's gonna need all the help he can get. So what if it's 1 dose of jet? Surely this won't come back to haunt him. Now officially using the Minutemen to push his chem empire, Walter starts helping settlements to get more workers, but decides to make a quick stop by that chem lab he forgot about. Easy money. Okay, now onto the settlements, and first up is Ten Pines Bluff. The usual waltz through Corvega occurs, and due to all the free supplies, the syringer is topped up with bleed rounds, and as long as he takes his time, Walter clears this place with little to no issue. And what issues he did get, Kate aka Jessie sorted out. With a report back to Preston to tell him the good news, Mama Murphy gets past some medics to peer into the super distant future and warn Walter about needles and not alive people. But it doesn't make any sense, so he doesn't pay it any attention. Cue some more Minutemen quests, and although Kate hates us while doing these, the supplies continue to roll in, meaning Walter can keep up the flow of chems, and whenever he needs something, he just trades chems for goods instead of spending a single cap. Ah, capitalism at its best. With Walter's empire growing before his eyes, it was time to get a bigger settlement to attract workers and cut down on costs for advertising. It was time to take back the castle. Dealing with Mirelurks wasn't so bad, as Walter could just tag one with a syringer round and let the Minutemen take care of the rest, but the Queen was another story. Besides the insane health she had and the fact that Walter couldn't heal his rads, this fight resulted in him running in between buildings and taking a shot when and where he could. But the syringer wasn't really doing anything against the Queen, so it was time to finally use some of that fulminated mercury Walter had been carrying around for so long. With the Queen dispatched, the castle was now under Minutemen occupation, and that meant the Chem Empire had a lot more room to grow now. But before continuing to grow his enterprise, a stop by Mama Murphy to give her daily dose occurred. Except while Walter did get a seemingly random passcode to shut off a courser, Mama Murphy decided that it was time for a long sleep. Everyone seemed to be fearful she wouldn't get up, but Preston didn't seem fazed.
Hey, I got word of a settlement that needs our help. I'll mark it on your map. We can use all the support we can get, so see what you can do to help.
So Walter was off to continue recruiting workers to supply him with the materials to keep the Commonwealth moving, because this train ain't stopping for nobody. After enough settlements had been saved, it was time to outfit the castle with the big guns. And with the Minutemen sated for the moment, Walter was now tasked with finding Nick Valentine. It turns out he was being held captive by a small-time gang. The Triggermen weren't so much of an issue, as by this point Jessie aka Kate in a bad cosplay and Walter were able to brute force their way through Vault 114. When they met up with Nick, they worked through the rest of the opposition and then came face to face with the leader of the group. Being outnumbered and outgunned, it was time to improvise.
Lighter or heavier?
With Nick now saved and owing Walter more than his wallet could afford, he told him of an informant for the institute running around the Commonwealth. Turns out they were the only ones stopping Walter from a monopoly on the chem market. If Walter could find this guy, maybe he could figure out how to remove any opposition for his enterprise. Arriving in Fort Hagen, Walter discovered that the syringer didn't affect synths. This is probably what Mama Murphy was trying to warn him about. Luckily, he had been stockpiling ammo for his 44, so he still had a way to fight back. Kate and Walter pushed their way through Fort Hagen to find the informant, and when they came face to face with him, it was another case of being outnumbered and outgunned.
the danger.
After the fight, they were able to recover a brain transplant from Kellogg, and upon taking it back to Dr. Amari, were able to dive through his brains to find the secrets on how to infiltrate the Institute. So now, Walter had to go meet with a scientist in the glowing sea. However, due to not being able to heal his radiation, dosing up on Radix and making a beeline for Virgil wasn't going to cut it this time. So putting on a hazmat suit he picked up from that chem lab raid, Walter was able to move through the glowing sea with little to no issue. Upon meeting with Virgil, it was learned that the only way to get into the Institute was to track down a courser and extract its chip, which our dynamic duo were more than happy to do. It's amazing how much help a 44 gives you when you don't have to be frugal with your ammo. Upon getting to the courser, Walter had some choice words to say.
You clearly don't know who you're talking to, so let me clue you in.
After grabbing the courser chip, they made their way to the railroad to wait for the chip to be deciphered, and then returned to Virgil to grab the schematics for a teleporter into the Institute. After hooking up the Minutemen with a constant influx of cash and chems, it was time for them to repay him and help construct the teleporter. Once inside, Walter and Father talked out territory and money, but clearly no compromise could be met.
A guy opens his door and gets shot, and you think that of me? No. I am the one who knocks.
Walter knew he had the better product, and now the only thing left to do was take the Institute down to remove the competition. But it appeared Father had already thought of this, and now the castle was under attack. Since the syringer was useless against synths, Walter had to use his 44 and turrets littered throughout the area. Even with a high damage weapon and lots of help, this was a struggle, mainly due to the fact that Walter only had about half a health bar to work with because of the rads. But in the end, this was just a matter of playing it safe and relying on VATS to make sure his shots landed. With the castle defended, it was time to return the favor and strike back. But in preparation for the battle, Walter made sure to stock up on supplies, and since he didn't plan on returning, he finally used the caps he had been hoarding. No point in holding out on the local chem pushers. A quick swim through the sewers and a quick phone call to the homies, and the Minutemen were able to push through the Institute. Everybody gangsta until the old bald dying man whips out his piece and starts shooting up the place. A quick diplomatic farewell to Father, and allowing the Minutemen to watch a legend in the making. Walter planted the bomb on the reactor and poured it out, smacking the detonation button and securing his grasp on the Commonwealth. Playing as a chem kingpin was pretty sweet, and by far this was the most amount of money I've ever had on one of these challenges, by far. But this run was pretty interesting how much money I could make buying and selling between all the vendors to keep up ammo for the syringer to wait until 44 ammo became more available. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing as it helps the channel out a ton. Plus, if you have a suggestion for a challenge run you'd like to see, let me know in the comments below. I play all sorts of games, so no challenge is off the table. And remember guys, at 10,000 subs, we are going to be attempting Dust at 1 HP. We're so close at this point, and I don't think it'll be too long before it actually comes to fruition. I want to thank all of you that watched to this point, and as always, I have been Chris from Crisis Gaming, and I will see you on the next one.